Hello and welcome. This video I'm going to offer you something which I would say is the definition, the Prima of the gravity of the situation. Imagine, well, don't imagine. I want you to run with the premise offered by Jason of Archaics and also Sonia of Tree of Knowledge regarding the Great Pyramid of Giza. I've asked this question several times and not had an answer. And that is, without those casing blocks on the Great Pyramid of Giza, which I see as being like an insulation around wire, what would happen if the Great Pyramid is activated without that insulation wire? Would it work at all, or would it work and go catastrophically wrong? To put this into context, a scene from Doctor Who, it's in the story called Genesis of the Daleks, where the Doctor, played by Tom Baker, and his two assistants, I think it's Sarah Jane and Harry, look to him and say, "You can't not do this." And the Doctor has got two wires, and if he touches these two wires together, there are never any Daleks. It completely changes the timeline. And in the end, he doesn't do it. Because he says, without the Daleks, look at the worlds and the civilizations that would be brought together by a common enemy. That kind of thing. So I want you to run with the premise that this is just a perceived reality, not a real reality. It is all a computer game. And like a computer game, if you switch the power off, it would basically be like a reset. Now, what if it is possible to find that button to press that switches this off? So all of this, everything that you would perceive around you, everyone you've ever known, all your loved ones, all your pets, all people you perceive as your enemies, everything and anything is gone just like that, at a flick of a switch. But maybe let's go further than that. What if I was to take it upon myself to play the role of God and decide who comes out of this game and lets only a few individuals know? From a mortal perspective, that I would have thought would be the definition of absolute evil. But is it evil if it would be to prevent something that would be far more catastrophic, or equally catastrophic in a different way? Of course, outside of this reality, this perceived reality, it may well be of a situation where our higher selves are saying, "Well done, you found it. You found the answer to the game." And of course, that reset would cause the apocalypse. It would also cause a genesis. Because if I was to take a certain number of people through to where this button is, it'd be like being in a computer game but finding a switch within the game. So I'd like you to ponder that. I'd love to know your comments. How would you perceive, not necessarily me, but if one person could find that button and switched it off and then switched it back on? I suppose from a mortal perspective it would be if the heart ceases to operate. How long does the brain stay alive for? How many seconds would it need to do this? It's just something that has sort of come to me in a dream that I've sort of woken up with, and I thought, while it's fresh in the moment, I would share this. All I can say is that this is a perceived reality. It is a containment field in which everything is played out. The world is a stage, and that stage is where everything is played out, not just affecting this reality and our perception from a mortal concept, but it's where all things are tested out, all timelines, all outcomes of an experiment are tested out rather than spilling out into the real realities that are outside of this containment field. Excuse me. There was myself and another that somebody once described as being the two most dangerous men in the world. The other person has passed over, so that would just leave me. And maybe that sounds a bit egoic. It's not meant to be. This is just a thought exercise, and I'd like you to put yourself in this position of, what if you knew where that button was? What if you were faced with a choice? Would you press it? Would you reset everything? Would you correct all the timelines with a flick of a button? Certainly from inside this reality, as it's perceived, it would probably be thought of as being the most horrendous thing ever. But what about outside of this reality? What if, by not pressing that button and allowing things to carry on the way they are, and that Great Pyramid to be activated, it has a devastating effect, which effectively would be the same result anyway, but there would be survivors. You can look at any sort of disasters, earthquakes and things, somewhere like Turkey where they've had them, or Japan or somewhere, and against all odds there are always survivors. This is referenced in the Bible. There were giants in those days and also after, which after the famous biblical flood shows by its very implication that that kind of reset does not wipe everything out. There will always be survivors. But I look round at this landscape, all this reddish earth, this red clay, because with these phoenix resets, there's always the red rain, there's always that red, and it's in the ground, you can't really see it from here, but it's all around here, and you have to consider what the hell happened before. Is this part of this timeline? Is this what is going to happen? Because I feel I have found a location where it could possibly be, and I fully intend to look a little deeper, do a bit of exploring in this physical reality and see if I can find it. I do take full responsibility if I do find it, but because as things stand, this avatar is most likely going to depart somewhere, I don't know, maybe 9, 10 years time, maybe 2040, maybe a bit after that, I really don't know. On law of averages of life expectancies and things of avatars, then it's quite possible by 2040 this physical being will be decrepit and unable to do the things it would do when it was younger. So from a sort of personal avatar perspective, it wouldn't matter. It's quite a deep topic, I know, but it's something I feel I've been pondering, and I thought this is, while it's fresh in the moment, I wanted to share this and put this concept, this theory to you. I'd also go with the Neville Goddard explanation that there is no childhood. You have a seamless, perceived childhood. You come back into this reality at the age of about 21 with a backstory. But if it's seamless, how would you know? Can you prove Neville Goddard wrong on that one, for example? So it's a heavy, deep subject, but I'd really love to hear your thoughts. I don't care if you think what I'm suggesting is pure evil. I don't care if you disagree with the whole idea of it being a simulation and a holosphere. You can think what you want. You can think me as the worst person ever. That's entirely up to you. That's your opinion. But weigh up the way this world is, the way this world is going, what is likely to happen, which will be signalled with the next Olympic Games. And of course you've got elections and things coming around. I understand the UK, it's the general election to elect a new selected Prime Minister. The United States will be having an election for a new president, I believe, this year as well. And talking to Keith yesterday, Sweden does the same thing. Every 4 years they have a general election, and I'd imagine that most other countries, certainly in the Western world, all do the same. But what I will say is, maybe as an indicator, and I know there will be channels that do this, study very carefully the opening and closing ceremony of the next Olympic Games in Paris, because things are not done where it's not revealed, but the reveal is always done in a way that you have to go beyond the superficial display of what is being shown. So I feel there will be a very good indicator of what is planned with it. That basically is representing the breaking of the third seal in the external world, in this perceived reality. So there is a lot for you to consider, to weigh up. So please do share your thoughts, share your comments. I really don't mind if you want to call me a evil arsehole or whatever you want, you know. They're just words. They don't mean anything. It's water off a duck's back. But the question is, it's not if I'm right. The question would be surely, if I am right, would I do it? What would you do in that position? What is your perception, your definition of things? How do you perceive things? What if it's like saying something is evil, but what if that perception of evil is from a position of not being able to see that if something wasn't enacted upon, that what would follow would be far worse. And I refer to 2046 and 2052, the Nemesis X object and the dark satellite. What sort of reality do you, or future do you wish to contemplate? There's a lot here to ponder, and I'm going to leave that with you. I'm throwing this open. Something Anne-Marie Uber mentioned about the above the sort of laws of the land, you've then got above that you've got military laws, and then above that you've got the real law, which is the collective public opinion, as it were. I mean, there's all sorts of speculation of what's going to happen with the white hats and the black hats and all this sort of thing. But there's far more to it than this. I stand by the whole idea of clearing the whole draconis aspect. I've been looking for things on Enki's mother, because he's half Anuna, half draconis. And draconians have got a bad name, but that's not true. There's good and bad in everything. I mean, even where you got the word draconian, as in applied to draconian laws, are they that bad if we go with this, the origin of it? I believe it's a character called Draco who instituted these laws. And even for stealing a loaf of bread would be a death penalty. But is it that bad if it is purely there as a preventative measure to stop things like theft? Obviously, in an ideal world where there is an equal sharing of wealth and abundance, then there would be no need for theft or anything like that. And again, it would come down to overcoming lower consciousness and that lower animalistic side of wanting to possess something that is somebody else's. But if it was all coming from the heart, would there be such things as theft and this perception of evil and whatever? In that sense, the laws, draconian laws, would surely be a good thing, because they'd be put in place as a deterrent, not to be enacted. In the same way, particularly in the United States with guns, a gun isn't in itself evil. It's the person that pulls the trigger, surely, that is evil, that does the deed. And this is why wars continue. It doesn't matter if you've got governments saying they declare war on this or that. It's those that take up that script and actually pick up those guns and do it, surely. Because if you go with the whole idea as put forward by Neville Goddard, it's more than an idea anyway. But if you go with that we are one, why would you be a self-harmer anyway? Why would you want to kill anybody? Why would you have hatred of anybody if that was the case? So pretty powerful stuff, and I feel, taking it back full circle, that is the Prima definition of the gravity of the situation. So I'm going to leave that over to you. You tell me, what do you feel? I'd love to know your thoughts on any of this. So I'm going to say love to you all. And when I say love, I mean unconditional love. That, like everything else in this reality, has a double meaning. So over to you.